What a massive missed opportunity to open the college football season from the Colorado Buffaloes in their home opener, hosting Georgia Tech in a 50-50 game, and Colorado blew it. I thought on several different levels. Now, long season ahead. It's not a sweeping indictment of things to come, but if we are going to react to the first game of the season, you have no choice but to walk away from that game either frustrated or confused or maybe even both. Tipping point for that game happened early in the contest. First quarter, first half, 3 turnovers from Georgia Tech, and Colorado could not produce more than 7 points. That feels so much different even walking away with a 10-0 lead. But the fact that it was only 7 points off 3 turnovers, deep in their own territory for 2 of them, was really disappointing for the CU Buffs. So I thought that was a huge swing point in the game where Georgia Tech actually has a lead going into halftime. And it's like, how could this have happened with the way that turnovers work in football and how impactful that they are? How could you have 3 of them and only walk away with 7 points? So that was a huge key for me in the game. But also, we came into the 2025 season talking about CU's defense. Robert Livingston, this was the point of the most source of optimism for me personally. Why CU had a chance to be good this year after the departure of so much real NFL talent was because of Robert Livingston's defense. And so for that side of the ball to give up 320 yards on the ground, 156 from Haynes King. I mean, holy smokes, you knew this is what this kid does, right? Nearly ran for 600 yards a year ago, over 700, close to 800 the previous year, 21 rushing touchdowns, I believe it is, in the 2 previous seasons at Georgia Tech. This is what they do. And they came in and did it and ran the ball down Colorado's throat in a way that I could not have seen coming. But also, the other side of the ball, offensively, we would have these conversations on the air. How much pressure is on Pat Shurmur to play or have success at the college level without a bona fide NFL quarterback? And that's what Deion Sanders was a year ago. I don't care where he was drafted. A kid was one of the best quarterbacks in college football a year ago. And what would this look like with someone like Caden Salter, a more running quarterback, all right, transferring in from Liberty? What would this look like under Pat Shurmur? And I got to tell you, and look, I'm not saying nothing good happened. There was a couple good moments. It was a 3-hour football game, right? You would hope that there'd be some good moments. But in general, Colorado's offense was so unimpressive, and it looked like a couple things were happening in just my opinion. One, Caden Salter looked like he was trying to prove a point to either the coaching staff, his teammates, himself, the fans, that he is a better thrower of the football than he has been advertised. And I thought he got himself in some trouble. I really did. There was a couple times where he had green grass in front of him and chose to throw the ball instead of just play to your own strengths. All right. And I thought this sort of dynamic culminated in the fourth quarter. There's around 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, okay? And it's a 3rd and 6. I gotta have it down in a tie game. And Salter had plenty of space in front of him, and with his physical makeup, getting 6 yards in that specific situation, it looked relatively easy. He chose to try to flick it into the secondary to a receiver and missed them and pretty badly, quite honestly. And that cost Colorado. Then Georgia Tech gets the ball back. Haynes King goes and runs for that touchdown, and Georgia Tech wins 27-20. But had Salter just played to his strength and kept the football on the ground, I think you get the first down. You have a chance to win that game there on that drive in regulation. The other dynamic that it appeared to me was revealing itself in game number 1 for Colorado was the lack of faith from the CU coaching staff, Deion Sanders, toward his offense. There was multiple times in the game where a year ago, 2 years ago, Deion wouldn't even have thought about it. You're going for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 2 from midfield. The way that Georgia Tech did, quite frankly. At one point, they did it. They went for it on 4th and 1 with a Salter a quarterback sneak in which he got stuffed on the right side of the offensive line and then got pushed back to the left and actually got pushed across the line of scrimmage or the line to gain rather, and they achieved the first down. But there was 2 or 3 examples and one that happened in that first half after the third turnover where they're near midfield and it's a 4th and short. The analytics would say go for it, but when they chose to punt it and did not have the confidence in their offense, the deflating nature, I mean, you could feel it at Folsom after the third turnover, and we're punting it for the second straight time on a short yardage scenario. You could just see that this coaching staff, Deion Sanders in particular, he's the one calling the shots, right? He's one of the highest paid coaches in the country. He did not show belief in his offense on those 4th down situations, and they chose to punt, for the most part. And I thought that that was revealing, to a certain degree in his type of belief, because we know the way that it looked and felt the last 2 years. There was such an undying belief in Shador, his son, and wow, a marked change in the very first game of the season. Pretty telling, and I thought illuminating, something to keep an eye on moving forward. Pat Shurmur, you got to do a better job. You got to be more creative. I watch college football all weekend long, and these gotcha plays, these gotcha play calls. I saw it all day Saturday. I saw them on Friday night. I saw some on Sunday night, or Sunday and then Monday night rather. I did not see it from Pat Shurmur. And after the game, I have a colleague at the Fan, 104.3 The Fan in Denver, Will Peterson, who tweets, people are calling for a quarterback change. There should be a coordinator change. Pat Shurmur, this, we've seen enough or whatever. And Deion Sanders Jr. liked the tweet. Could that be revealing into what his dad is maybe thinking? I don't know. It's way too early for these conversations, and it's disappointing from a CU perspective that it's popping up like right out of the gate. All right, they moved on from Sean Lewis for Pat Shurmur, and now it's like, okay, this is where you earn your money, Pat. All this former NFL experience and all that stuff, you got to go and do it. You have to go and do it. And I thought the first test for really defensive coordinator Robert Livingston was a failing grade. Offensively for Pat Shurmur, I thought it was a failing grade. And for Deion Sanders, at the end of that game, what was he thinking? You have 50,000 people at Folsom Field. There's a minute left, a minute 7, I think it was. And you have the ball, and you don't call a timeout after first or second down, and you're essentially taking 39 seconds to run 2 plays for 9 yards? I mean, oh my goodness. And you could feel the angst. People are like, call timeout. The announcers are saying, what are they doing? You have to call timeout. If you've played Madden football on PlayStation, you've got to use a timeout, and they didn't use them. It was so confusing. We know Deion Sanders isn't this dial-it-up play caller, right? He leans on his coordinators for that. Fine. But you are managing the game. You are the CEO of football. He needed to do a better job in the lack of any decision-making at all. It hurt Colorado. It hurt CU on Friday night. He has got to do better, but that was not a good look for his football acumen, for his game awareness. He has got to do a better job. So Pat Shurmur receives a failing grade, yes. Robert Livingston, you give up 320 yards on the ground, obviously a failing grade. But Deion Sanders receives a failing grade for me as well because of the lack of game management. That was so disappointing to see to start the 2025 season. Long way to go. Long way to go. I'm sure CU will bounce back, right? We've seen them, suffer tough losses early in the season. Nebraska a year ago, right? I think it was 28-0 at half. Everyone's going crazy, myself included. They end up bouncing back. Okay, long season ahead, but a really rough start, a frustrating loss right out of the gate for the 2025 Colorado Buffaloes.